All right, we're live. How was your weekend?
It was good. I worked for a little bit yesterday and had a call with you on Saturday, right? Or it wasn't Friday.
I think you took
Wait,
Friday off, right?
Friday, right? So yeah, I had a rest on Saturday and then worked for a little bit on Sunday. How was yours?
Good. What did I do? Moved back. My place got fumigated, so then I moved back. Didn't find any dead bugs, so I don't know if they even did anything. They put a tent over it and they took the tent off. Nothing, nothing did changed. So, and then played volleyball Friday and basketball on Sunday, and now my body is pretty beat up. And then
Nice.
random work stuff. I've been looking at a few. So I did a blog about the top 10 AI GitHub projects, and so I kind of went down the line, looked at the different ones. Auto GPT is like number one. It's got like 140,000 stars on GitHub, and then there's a few other
Mm-hmm.
ones. One that I saw, it wasn't the top 10, but it was a new thing that came up from Microsoft, was AutoGen, which was you can have it create new repos, or you can have it modify existing repos or folders. Tried that one. Also
Yep.
tried, which you can like configure different agents to discuss the problem and then work out the code for it, either a new repo or an existing repo folder of code. And then I
Mm-hmm.
tried this other project called uh, GPT Engineer. So there you tell it it's just a prompt, right? You tell it like I want you to do this in this folder, and then it does the deltas. All the projects they're kind of like they can do toy applications and they can do a little bit of modifications, but it's still not really there yet. So, but that's something I try to do is just like see what the latest AI agent stuff is and try it out and see if it can help us. And it's like 90% of the way there. There's still like always some gaps. Same with Sleep AI. There's always some gaps that it's not like finishing up the last bit of code that you needed to do. But they're making
Yeah.
improvements, right? So have you
So
tried any?
you cannot fully rely on them, but you still can use them as an assistant for your daily work.
Yeah, at a minimum, it'll tell you like where you need to make the code changes. Like identify the spots, the initial spots you should look at, right? Uh, I've been still trying to get Sweep AI to do like flash tests for us and then write some automatic unit tests because we don't have unit tests in our repo.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that I'm going to keep on working on. And in fact, it was actually weird. I commented on so you're supposed to be able to comment on it on the pull request, and then it sees your comment and addresses it. And so I commented on like a
Yep.
week ago. And today it picked up on it and it started doing stuff. So it seems a little buggy what's going on there. But if you look at the pull request in our Slack bot, you'll see that um, yeah, I made the changes. So I need to check
Yep.
out the code and test it.
Yeah. So I almost finished with the semantic search index service in Google Cloud, which is the thing that will handle tasks from Google Cloud Tasks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also mentioned chain tasks a few days ago, and the reason I want to do that there is a limit of 10 minutes, I believe, for
Mm-hmm.
any kind of execution. You cannot avoid that. So the thing I've decided to do is to uh, break messages into chunks uh, that have 1,000 messages, and
Mm-hmm.
then um, do it for one task, and then once this task is executed and finished, the handler creates another task for the next 1,000 messages, and that
Gotcha.
it's like a
Uh, does
sequential
the
execution.
this is in Google App Engine in the task queue system that they had? They used to have an exception that would come up if you're close to running out of time. So you had
Mm-hmm.
time to like clean up, and that's where you could like when you get the exception, you can then put another task on the queue to resume where it left off. Does that exist at all in Google Task?
I didn't check that. I don't know.
I mean, the way you did it is fine. I was just interested.
I just know that they have retries.
Mm-hmm.
And if you run out of time, I believe it's treated as an error. The task failed, and the Google tasks will automatically retry this task.
Okay.
So,
is there any concern about duplicate entries?
No, not much. So for now, I think that IDs of embedding should handle it all, because we do upserts.
Mm-hmm. Also, just gonna replace if it's there already.
Yeah, we will have a lot of replacements, unnecessary replacements, but for this stage, I think it's okay. We don't care much about that, right?
Do you have it after? Let's say that you trying to do a batch of 1,000, and there was like some funky thing in there that's causing problems. At what point do you give up on it, log it somewhere, and move on to the next thing?
Yeah, we have retries within this operation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever a piece fails, it will be retried many times. And then you're asking when the whole operation will fail.
Well, like if you could have like infinite retries, right? And then you could hose your system down, right?
I think so. For now, if we fail to prepare an embedding, and retries don't help, we will just skip it.
We'll just kick it.
Probably skip it, and move on.
Well, we got to log it somewhere so we can come back to it later and look at it.
It's logged. Yeah, it's logged in the logs of the service. Okay. So it's another field we need to watch closely the logs and keep them clean.
So once you have this running in staging, we're gonna need. So I was trying to get Leon. I'll try and get him to join this stand-up, but he's kind of MIA. To get going on the front end aspect, right? So we can get the query to then hit your backend service and get the results.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk to, and even more important, is do we encrypt the messages or do we link to them?
Could you repeat the previous statement?
So the important thing I wanted to talk to you about was, do we encrypt the messages? Remember we were talking about we should be like HIPAA compliant, right? So that, because we come from Teledoc where everything had to be HIPAA compliant, which is not that big of an ask. Encrypt in transit, encrypt at rest, and then some other stuff like logging and audits and stuff. But for any message that goes into Pinecone, so Pinecone already encrypts it on the disk, but they're not necessarily encrypting it in the the metadata wherever we're putting it. So for an additional level of security, I was thinking if we do store the messages, we do them encrypted, and then if we could somehow get away from storing them at all, which is probably would be the best. The problem there is that the latency to then fetch them and show them to the user, that would hurt usability.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I kind of don't understand why it's such a big deal at this point. Why do you care so much about encryption in all places?
So it's a matter of like trust. It's a matter of if I'm a customer of your service, I want to make sure that you're encrypting my data, that it's not easily accessible to somebody else. If they did get their hands on it, that they wouldn't be able to do anything with it because it's encrypted. So it's more of like security, because some of the stuff is sensitive, right? This is messages at a company. They could be talking about strategy or tactics or sensitive issues in their channels.
Yeah.
And also, if we wanted to sell to So because Slack also has a HIPAA version, right? For us to be able to play in that field, we need to be HIPAA compliant also. So it's, for trust, it's for HIPAA compliance, it's for if there's PII in there, we want that encrypted.
Actually, we can do another layer of encryption with no issues. It just whenever we create the metadata for an embedding, we just encrypt the text, and the Pinecone only stores the vector of embeddings and this encrypted text. And then our application will decrypt the metadata when we fetch it, and only then it will be transmitted into pure text, and a response will be generated. So in this case, Pinecone will not have access to the original content of the messages, only the encrypted text and the embeddings, the vector, which might give you some sense of the of the semantic of the text, but not much. I think it's not enough to decipher the original meaning of the text.
Are you doing any queries on metadata right now?
No.
Okay.
It's only absurd with IDs, and that's it.
Now,
and search by embedding for sure.
How would you manage the keys for the encryption? Like, would you have a key per organization stored in Google Secrets?
I don't manage it right now. So you're asking about the plan?
Like, what do you think is a good approach? I mean, we could do it where you just have one key, right?
Yeah.
Or you can have key per org. So even if you got the key for one org, you didn't have access to all the other orgs.
That's one of the ways, but it adds some.
It makes it more complex, yeah.
Yeah. Some process makes the process harder because we will need to generate key for each org. We need to think about it a little bit more if that is needed. So what's the risk if someone steals the database and he also steals the key from the secret from the Google? Having these two pieces, he will be able to decrypt the message.
Yeah, you'd have to know which key. So if you depends on the scheme you went, right? If you went with one key for the whole database, you need to get you get the database and you need the key of everything, right? Now, if you had multiple keys, each one for per org, then even if I steal all the database and one key, I only unlock one org.
Yep.
Now, if I hack your secret manager, I'm stealing everything, right? I'm not gonna just like steal one key. So I don't know, maybe that doesn't really provide us anything extra.
Yeah. That's right. And it's difficult to analyze how vulnerable these secrets in Google are to stealing keys.
Okay, Fed is joining on. The other stuff that I wanted to discuss with Fed is we're going to do anyone that signs up for, and we talked about this on Slack actually, anyone that signs up for the free tier gets the enterprise out the gate for 2 weeks. And then before the 2 weeks ends, we let them know like, hey, we're going to delete your data. If you don't upgrade, not a big deal. You can always re-enable it, but then we have to re-index everything because we deleted your previous indexes. So we'll talk about that as soon as Fed is jumping on right now. And then how's it going with Elijah on the Conflow design? Any updates there?
No, I didn't hear from him since Thursday, I believe.
Okay. We can set up a design review meeting sometime this week when there's initial plan listed out. I had also, on the specification, I added a new section called ideas. So here are some of the ideas. Would love to get your thoughts on it. What if Haley could determine how companies are doing on their OKRs? So if you specify the OKRs, we can then go and look all the messages that are related to see like how is there discussions going on about the OKRs? Because when we were at Teledoc, we would set OKRs at our quarterly meeting, and then we would completely forget about it. Hey, Fede.
Yes.
Okay.
So this would be like something to just track OKRs once you set them. Maybe it's annual or quarterly. That maybe Haley automatically hits you up at the end of each week and says, I didn't see any conversation about this OKR. This OKR people talked about this much. This one I can actually see that there's been progress made. So that was one idea. The other one was, we're looking about comm flow, where you look at the link between conversations. But what about like overall morale at the company? Like, is it positive? Is it negative? Which way is it trending? There's a few apps that already do this, so I don't even know if this would be a unique thing to us. But if we have the data, can we easily figure out the morale of the company?
So so we have the graph. We can analyze it and categorize it. Like not just give it to the user, but also give some analysis of it. Like maybe similar companies or I don't know. So I don't think for the end user it's valuable to just have the graph. They need some kind of guidance on that.
Yeah. Well, like you can show the graph, but then you need to have like some automatic takeaways, right? Like here's the obvious. We analyze this graph. Here's the obvious things that we're seeing that happened the last week. That you had layoffs. Now morale is down. We can see that in the messages. People are bummed, right? Like that's happening. Or everybody got bonuses. Everybody's happy. Like morale is high, or whatever, right? Or they did a release. Everybody's excited, without having to like hover over each link and figure out like what's everybody talking about, right? Another suggestion was give suggestions on who should talk to each other about what topics to ensure that projects are running smoothly. So if you see DevOps team is not talking to the developers about a particular project, that should be a red flag, right? Unless they're DM each other on the private. But if they're not talking to each other, then like, okay, you're gonna have delays later because DevOps doesn't know about that project coming online. There's no communication about it. So something where you can group a certain project, right? Some project is kicked off, you know about it, and then are they following best practices in the conversations?
Yep.
Another one that I was talking to Fede about this at our last stand-up was, back at Teledoc, we had the time tracker, who's spending how much time on what. And so if we could have an automatic breakdown of like conversations, right? Like 50% of the conversations are talking about project X because that's a very big project. 10% are talking about this. So you kind of like determine the amount of effort going into certain things based off how much conversation is happening about those things. So instead of having at the end of the, for Oli's time tracker, we would go in there, we would put in our percentages, and then he'd make nice, cool graphs, and we could kind of get an idea. What if that was just done for you automatically? Like, hey, your time is being spent here, here, and here. I think that's super valuable to organizations. I know it was for using that time tracker at Teledoc.
Yeah, but the main disadvantage is that there is not enough data usually in the messages to calculate the efforts and time spent on them.
You wouldn't necessarily say like, hey, this is where the time is actually being spent. You're saying, hey, this is where the communication, you're talking a lot about this project, but you're not talking very much about this project. Where if you are talking about this project, it's in a private channel and it's, no one knows about it.
Yep, that's useful.
Oh, so I put those ideas in our Conflow specification doc. So Fede is going to work on the free tier stuff, not free tier, free trial stuff. That you take the free tier and make it enterprise. I guess you're going to close out the back end stuff for what we're doing there. I'm working with our folks for the marketing website to get the testimonials, fix the social page, fix the CSR page, and then I want to do a Conflow page like we have for Smart Search. Also, I think I have a few things that I want to change up on the website to make it better. Fed, I did look at the billing site. It looks good. It looks like it's carrying over, but people are still trying to click. They're still trying to go back to the website. So you can see that in the recordings. Other than that, I had some beers with Mike. He's going to be helping with the proposal for the NSF. So he's going to run point, at least get the initial outlines going, and then I'll come in there and help out. We're probably just going to go with the initial pitch of long-term memory for LLMs, even though a lot of it, we have developed out, but with the power of UCSB, with Divi, who's our database expert, and then I reached out to another professor, Professor Chang at UCSB. He's also a big machine learning AI guy. He actually has opened up the emails, so I have the trackers on my emails. So whenever someone opens the email, he opened it up in the morning, and then he opened it up like 30 minutes ago also. So he's looking at it a few times. So we do have his attention. It's a matter of is he going to actually, say, oh yeah, this is good, let's do it. If push comes to shove, I'll just show up at their door. So we'll see if they can ignore me when I'm right in front of them. All right, anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you, bye.